Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about hard gainers and my view on them as someone who coaches many lifters, who has a lot of experience working with people who call themselves hard gainers. And to sum it up nicely of who they are and then how we deal with it, a hard gainer is essentially someone without a robust or a healthy appetite. It's someone who struggles to eat enough to gain weight. Although I will say it is largely an issue of them also trying to eat relatively healthy while doing so, because this is not a problem that actually exists if a person is eating garbage. In other words, if a person's sitting around eating nothing but junk food, almost no one on the face of the earth, short of serious endurance athletes, really struggles to eat enough to gain weight. So it's generally the situation of they're trying to eat somewhat healthy. And then it's people with lower appetites who run into problems. Because again, no one has ever struggled to gain weight who lives on a diet of exclusively pizza, fried chicken, and burgers. Okay? It's just not going to happen. It never happens. And if it does, you need to see a medical doctor immediately. There is something severely wrong with you. And I don't mean that in a mean or a derogatory way or a joking way. If you're that type of hard gainer where you're stuffing yourself on junk food and really trying to gain weight and the scale never goes up, or you lose weight, you need immediate medical attention. There's one of several medical conditions you have that if they go untreated, you're probably going to die from them. So I want to throw that caveat in so that, and again, make sure that people understand that is not a joke. That is really a serious deal. Your life is in danger at that point. You need to see a doctor. Because as far as the other stuff goes, it really is appetite. It's not metabolism. We know that metabolism varies very little from person to person. Your base metabolic rate at any given amount of both body weight and muscle tissue, in the most extreme cases, is only going to vary by a few hundred calories. Okay, and no one struggles to eat 300 calories a day. Okay, to add 300 calories to what they're eating, this is never an issue. So that's not the problem. It's not their metabolic rate. Because people want to throw it out there, well, they have a really fast metabolism. Well, it turns out there's not really much of such a thing, barring drugs. So it's an appetite issue. And the solution, they simply have to eat more calories. And they have to track their calories, because that's the other thing. You get people who say, well, I eat like a horse, and then you start tracking them, and I have, like, these are healthy young men, right? And I have 150-pound female clients who eat more than them. Well, you're telling me that you eat less or the same as a 150-pound woman, but you eat a ton. Well, not really. You really don't. And when you have them start tracking and they find out they eat 2,400 calories, well, that's why you're 160 pounds, 140 pounds, whatever it happens to be. Okay? I mean, it's just not realistic for a healthy young man lifting weights to gain muscle or body weight on calories that low. It's just not realistic unless you're just completely sedentary outside of your 2, 3, 4 workouts a week. Okay, that's the issue. So their calories are actually much lower than they perceive them to be, because they see themselves as eating all the time, or they eat one massive giant meal. You'll see that people are like, well, this person, they eat a lot. Well, no, you see them occasionally eat a really big meal, but then what do they eat for the next 48 hours? And I've seen that many times, to where the hard gainer can gorge down. He'll force down a 3,500 calorie meal out hanging out with the friends. But then you look at what he eats the rest of the day. A few hundred calories. The next day he eats 1,400 calories. The next day, 1,800. Well, his weekly calories are not high. They're actually end up being relatively low. So again, it comes down to the inability to eat. And the other thing is that we know that it's a calorie thing, because if the hard gainer really ate enough to gain weight and they just weren't lifting or anything, they would just gain fat, right? And that's really the case of the true hard gainer who's struggling to put on weight it is either a serious medical issue. Again, we're talking stuff like type 1 diabetes. So if people are curious what I mean by that, that's a perfect example. They're possibly a type 1 diabetic. It's not been diagnosed. That would be an example. Well, that's deadly. To be undiagnosed and untreated as a type 1 diabetic trying to eat enough to gain weight is deadly. It will kill somebody. So that's an example. Or they just simply are not eating enough. So our solutions is to add more fat to their diet. I mean, because they still want to eat clean. I don't want the hard gainer to sit around eating junk food all day. Right? That's not optimal for health. Any more than it is for anyone else to gain weight by eating pizza and burgers every day. That's just not ideal. They're going to have to add dietary fat. And that's actually a disadvantage because generally you're going to gain less fat and more muscle mass if you bulk on very high carbohydrates and protein and you keep fat extremely low. Now, people say, well, can the hard gainer do that? Well, no, because they wouldn't be a hard gainer. If they're capable of gaining weight on a low-fat diet, unless their carbs are a bunch of liquid sugar and refined sugars, well, that's a different story too, and also not ideal. But if they could gain weight, eating chicken and rice, they should gain weight eating chicken and rice, but they can't. They wouldn't be a hard gainer if they could do it on a low-fat diet. So that's the issue. And yes, I would argue from a body composition perspective, should prioritize carbohydrates, then protein second, and then fats third. Should be way down the list for a person who can eat enough. Okay, if you're wanting to not gain as much body fat. And notice I said as much, I didn't say none. Right? The whole weight gain process of bulking and cutting to gain muscle, invariably, you're not going to stay shredded year round. You're just not. Not if you want to gain any muscle at all. So that's our solution, though. They have to add fat because otherwise they simply can't get the calories in that they need. So really, that's our practical solution. Fattier cuts of meat, natural peanut butter. Peanut butter is my favorite solution. That will fix the problem for a hard gainer. Adding healthy fats, adding olive oil to everything they eat. Adding extra spoons of natural peanut butter to everything they eat that they can put it in. Eating it right out of the jar, that will fix the problem. That's your healthiest solution. All right? And just add in more healthy fats. And if they weren't a hard gainer, we would take a different dietary approach and we would just up the carbs. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.